The Warehouse Nightmare. I'm originally from Syria and spent about 7 to 8 months in Sudan, Africa. That country is a third-world nation and very poor. While it didn't have many good jobs, prices were incredibly cheap. You could live on around $100 a month, covering rent, bills, food, and water. However, gasoline was so expensive that you might need $50 to $100 just to commute to work. In terms of jobs, the best you could do without prior experience was to either work in a restaurant or a factory, earning at most $100. This meant you had to be close to the job or get them to cover your transportation. About 5 months ago, I contacted a restaurant owner about a job offer I saw. We discussed a position as a warehouse manager for the restaurant. My shift was set to start at 8 a.m. and end at 6 p.m., 7 days a week, with only one vacation day per month. I would get one sandwich per day for lunch and one meal to take home each week. When I asked about the salary, he said we would discuss it later. I agreed to work a trial period of 1 week to see if it worked out. On my first day, he handed me the keys to the warehouse. When I opened it, I found a huge mess. My coworkers told me that no one had worked as a warehouse manager for the past few months. I started looking at what we had and took notes. I created a new Google account on my phone and made an Excel sheet to sort everything. By the end of day 1, I had gone through most of the items in the warehouse, and all I could think was, holy sh*t. It was such a mess that the workers didn't even know what they had. For instance, if they needed mustard and didn't see it on the shelves, they would just buy a new box. I could tell the warehouse had been left like this for over a year because I found meat in the freezer that expired more than 2 years ago. On the second day, I began doing my job by ordering new supplies, sorting the lists I made on my phone by type to find items more quickly, and putting away the expired products. Out of nowhere, my boss came to the warehouse with a list of everything in the restaurant and told me to take their attendance because the person responsible for this was busy in the kitchen. I told him I still didn't know anyone in the restaurant, but he insisted I could just learn their names while doing my job. Determined to impress him, I went along with it. By the end of day 2, I had finished inputting everything into my phone, thrown away all the expired ingredients, and taken attendance. All that was left was physically sorting the warehouse to make it more organized, which I did a great job at. I hoped to get a good response from my boss. At the end of my shift, I went to discuss things with my boss. I showed him how I sorted everything on my phone and explained that once he brought over a laptop, we could easily move the file there for anyone to check the inventory. I also detailed the state of the warehouse when I started and how much work I had done to fix it. He was really impressed and praised me for a job well done. Then I asked about my salary. He said, your salary will start at $60, and then as you work, I'll improve it. Maybe in a few months, you'll reach $120. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't even afford to live on that, transportation alone was $50. I asked, are you telling me to not eat or pay rent this month? He replied, if you don't like it, then you can just leave. I figured he wasn't someone to reason with, so I immediately said, okay, and left. The next day, one of my coworkers called, asking where I kept the inventory list because he couldn't find it. I told him there was no list. Surprised, he asked about the list I showed my boss. I explained that it was actually on my phone and, when he asked me to send it to him, I replied, I'm sorry, but since I quit, I'm just going to delete the file from my phone. Have fun sorting through that mess. I hung up. It wasn't a huge victory, but at least I didn't give them the results of my work for free. As it turned out, those 2 days of work had been unpaid.